All right, we're here to talk about Nadal beating Djokovic at the French Open final and tying Roger Federer for 20 career Grand Slam titles. Just simply incredible stuff. Nadal was just completely dominant today in every aspect, and really this is a huge victory in terms of historical implications, and we'll get to that at the end of the podcast. But first, let's talk about the match itself. Now, a vast majority of these so-called pundits, tennis experts, the vast majority of them were predicting Djokovic. And, I mean, I can understand why. Djokovic was 37-1 this year. Even Vegas predicted Djokovic. So it's not totally out of the realm of possibility why all these people were predicting Djokovic. It made sense the way Djokovic was playing. He was absolutely surgical. And it certainly made sense that he had a very good shot at winning today coming into this match. But Nadal fooled us all again. We should have known Clay and Nadal, those two words equals Nadal victory. It's about as predictable as the sun coming up in the morning. And right away he set the tone. So let's break down the first, second, and third sets. That's all it took, 3 sets. And of course, Nadal never dropped a single set in the French Open. So the first set, I thought the real key to the match were the first and second games. He set the tone early. Those were fundamental. And after those games, Djokovic was really never the same. Now, Djokovic came out with on his serve. He got up 40-15, and it looked like it was just going to be a normal service game for Djokovic. Yet, Nadal managed to get his way back into it. He tied it up at 40-40, and then he broke Nadal. And that, as I said, was probably the most important game. Usually it's the last games in the match you want to take a look at as the most important. I thought that was the real tone setter in the match. It broke Djokovic. It took the wind out of his sails, and he never was really the same. Now, the second game was almost as important. Now, how many times have we seen Djokovic break right back after he loses a service game? He is the greatest in the history of tennis at that. We've seen him. I've seen him where he's had some absolutely horrible service games, and he breaks right back. We've seen that so many times, and I thought it actually might happen. I said, Djokovic, he could break Nadal right back here, and we could be at 1-1. Well, he did put some pressure on Nadal's serve, but once again, Nadal played some excellent defensive tennis, hit some good shots, and he held serve, and it was 2-0. And I thought that was the match right there. I said, this clearly is not going to be Novak's day. You could just tell the wind was out of his sails, and it only got worse from there. It was a 6-0 drubbing in that first set. Now, how many people would have predicted that? Djokovic didn't win a single game in the first set. Just amazing stuff. It wasn't till 1 hour into the match. We had to go to the second set before Djokovic finally won his first game. And so let's talk about the second set. So unforced errors were starting to rack up. Now the announcers, McEnroe and Carrillo, they were sort of saying, well, this is Djokovic missing these shots. They weren't giving enough credit to Nadal. Nadal was taking Djokovic out of his game. He clearly got into his head. So yes, Djokovic missed some shots, but let's give a lot of credit to Nadal. Nadal completely took Djokovic out of his game and really forced him to hit shots he doesn't normally want to have to make in terms of his precision, in terms of his power. So yes, I will say Djokovic had an off day, but also a lot of that, let's give credit to Nadal where it's due. Now, in terms of the second set, I thought a key moment was midway through the set. Nadal was up 2-1. He had the advantage on serve, and Djokovic had a chance to tie it up. Now, it's one of these shots. You ever seen this? Djokovic hits a blast. The returner barely returns it. It kind of floats into middle court. How many times does Djokovic miss that shot? He usually absolutely drills it with a forehand shot, and 9.5 times out of 10, he makes that shot, and almost all the time, it's not returned. I remember the 2019 Wimbledon against Federer. He had several of those, and most of those did not come back. Well, he missed it. Not only missed it, it went into the net, and it was a foot into the net, way off. And so this was just a prime example of Djokovic, or a prime example of Nadal getting into Djokovic's head. This is a shot he never misses, but you could tell he's overthinking it. He's thinking, what do I have to do to get Nadal, to win this point, to get Nadal off the court. What do I have to do here? And he missed it, and instead of a 2-all game, now it's 3-1 Nadal. So that I thought that was a key moment and sort of typical of how things were going for Djokovic, on this day. And these were shots that Djokovic has not been missing in the last 12 months. No, Djokovic has just been dominating, and yet he misses a rather easy, by Djokovic standards, a rather easy mid-court shot. Another interesting moment in the second set was in the sixth game. Now, there was a moment where Nadal was getting dominated by Djokovic. Djokovic definitely had the advantage, and this was not a neutral point at all. Nadal, though, made several amazing defensive stops here, and was able to get it back into play. And then Nadal ripped a forehand shot it was a laser shot right past Djokovic. And I think that sort of summed up the day. Here's Djokovic making some great shots. He has all the pressure on Nadal, and he just couldn't win the point. Nadal finds a way to make some amazing defensive stops. And that's the thing. We hear all about Djokovic's defense, right? We hear about that all the time. But really, we should start to give, and it's not that Nadal doesn't get credit, but he needs this was a absolute clinic defensively for Nadal today. And he made several amazing saves, forced Djokovic to keep having to hit more and more precise shots, which he was unable to do. And there was another exchange. I don't know if you guys saw this. It was midway through the second set. And they were just hitting blast after blast at each other. And then Novak needed to rip 2 laser shots on the line. These were absolute rifle shots. Hit the paint on the line to win the point. Now, normally after that, Novak's going to pump his fist. But he didn't do that. He just had this look on his face like, oh my gosh, what do I have to do to win a point here? Is this what I'm going to have to do to win this match? Do I have to hit these type of laser shots? Set point for the second set was typical of the way that, the day went for Novak. Finally, Nadal got a warning on his serve. He was, you know how he's always close to that time limit, the 25-second time clock, and he passed it. He got a warning. It kind of threw him off a little bit. He missed his first serve, and the second serve was a fairly easy, mundane serve that Novak Djokovic 9 times out of 10 is going to put that away, and he pulled it left. He just pulled it left, missed it by a clear foot. And yep, the second set goes to Nadal, and just yet another example of how Nadal got into Novak Djokovic's head today, because that's normally a shot that Djokovic is not going to miss at all. He's going to make that 9 times out of 10. Okay, let's move on to the third set, and this was the most competitive set. And Djokovic started to hit some absolute zingers. He was making some big shots. His serve started to improve quite a bit. And he finally got through to Nadal and broke him. And there was the feeling here that Djokovic might actually win this set. But Nadal broke back. And by the time we got later into the set, it was 5-all. And then the critical game at 5-all, Djokovic on his serve, and he double faults. And there almost was a major controversy. Did you guys watch that on the second serve? It was just out. And, of course, the umpire walked over. Who knows how that's going to go, but he called it out, and Hawkeye confirmed it. The umpire got it right. Novak even checked the mark and agreed. And all I have to say is big exhale of relief on that one, because last thing you want is a major controversy on Nadal's 20th title. That's the last thing you would want for this thing to end up on some controversial call. And, gosh, there's been quite a few of them in the 2020 French Open. We didn't need another one. And it sure looks like they're going to go to the Hawkeye system in the spring. Let's hope they do it. So on the serve, it's now 6-5. Nadal goes up 40-love, 3 title points. Now, here's where I kind of thought, Novak's pulled out these Houdini acts before, right? We all know about the 2019 Wimbledon where he saved 2 match points against the great Roger Federer. And I thought, what if he does this here? What if he pulls off 3? What if he saves 3 title points here? What if he did that, pulled another Houdini act? And then I thought, wait a minute. This is Nadal. This is the French Open. I'm not going to fall into that same game that the pundits fell into. This isn't going to happen. And sure enough, Nadal aces it out and wins the match. 3 sets and is the definitive champ. We can just call him the champ now, right? He's got 20 titles and ties Roger Federer for the all-time lead. Amazing stuff, amazing times. Great tennis. Enjoy it while it lasts, for sure. Okay, a couple more points I'd like to make about the match. First, all of those drop shots that we talked about with Djokovic. And I mentioned that in my last podcast. I thought Nadal would neutralize those. I thought he would handle them. And sure enough, Nadal not only did that, not only neutralized them, I think in the end, I have to go back and watch the match again. I probably will. And I'm going to count the drop shots, but I think Nadal came out the winner on a majority of those, on both ways, with Nadal hitting them and Djokovic hitting them. But yeah, you knew Djokovic was going to go to that well right away. He did. The first game alone, I counted 4 drop shots, 2 of which Nadal won. So that was an early statement to Djokovic that, no, you're not going to pull these off on me. I'm going to handle these. And not only did he handle them, Nadal hit one of the most incredible return drop shots I've ever seen. And it was an amazing drop shot by Djokovic. I mean, he put that all the way to the side, and Nadal was on the other side of the court. And I just said, there's no way Nadal's getting that. Well, he not only scoops it up, he threads it across the court, cross court, for a cross court winner that Djokovic had no chance. Now, McEnroe was kind of criticizing Djokovic for giving up on the point, but in reality, when you look at that, there's no way Nadal gets there, but he scooped it up, not only managed to scoop it up, but hit an amazing shot, threaded the needle, and that was just another shot that summed up the day for Nadal. I'm sorry, for Djokovic. So here we are, Nadal, 13 French Open titles. And we talk about these records that will never be broken, and we have to say this one probably won't for a long time. Just amazing stuff. 13 French Open titles. And, Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game, where they talk about Cy Young's wins, Joe DiMaggio's 56-game winning streak, and I think they're going to, and Nolan Ryan's 5,000, who knows how many strikeouts he got. Well, guess what? We're going to now talk about Nadal and his 13 French Open titles. That will not be broken. I got a feeling he's going to add a few more of those, don't you think? I mean, he's going to be the absolute favorite in 7 months. You have to think he's going to go into that a heavy favorite, and maybe for a couple years after that with his conditioning. We keep thinking Nadal, you hear these people saying he's too old. He hasn't shown that at all. He keeps showing that he's basically in this for the long term. I think he's got 2 to 3 more good years. And let's hope both Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic stick around for several more years. This has been the greatest. I mean, they really will call this the golden age of tennis someday. I think we'll look back at it. And they have all been a pleasure to watch. I'm a big fan of all 3 of these guys. I will admit that Nadal's probably my favorite, but I really enjoy watching both Djokovic and Federer. They're both a treasure to watch. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of, obviously, as you well know, these guys now are tied at 20 apiece, and the historical implications of this are massive indeed. Instead of being 1 behind, Nadal, Djokovic is now 3 behind, and you have to wonder if he's going to catch him this year. Who knows? Djokovic will be favorite. He'll be the favorite in the Australian Open, definitely the Wimbledon, and probably the U.S. Open. So it'll be interesting to see. Nadal will be the favorite at the French Open. So I guess we were talking about sort of Djokovic catching Federer, but I think it's the other way around. Djokovic is going to be looking at catching Nadal, because you got to think Nadal is going to end up with more than 20 now. He's probably going to end up with 22, 23. Who knows? Now, I know things can change very quickly in tennis, and things could. We could see Dominic Thiem, become the next great player. He certainly got that major under his belt. It'll be interesting to see how he does in 2021. So I guess that's it for this podcast. If you like it, please subscribe. I'm going to do a final wrap-up on the French Open probably in a couple days and talk about really this historic French Open, but it wasn't all about Rafael Nadal. There were several other very interesting things going on with Sofia Kenin's father, all these crazy things. So I'll do a final wrap-up in a couple days, give you my final thoughts on this yet another French Open that's in the books. Thanks again for listening.